Hello, hello, hello. Hello, navigators. How are you today? All right. So, first off, I want to say I apologize for not having class on Thursday or being able to come live yesterday as I posted I would. Thursday I wasn't feeling good, and then on yesterday I had a lot going on family wise, so I wasn't able to go live. But here we are today. So, if you are watching this on the replay, put replay, and if you're watching it live, put live. Let me go ahead and put that in the chat right now. All right. Can I pin that? Yeah. Okay. There we go. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. So we are today we are continuing talking about the first house. Okay. And so if you have ever said, I don't relate to my zodiac sign, meaning your sun sign, but didn't know why, then most likely it's because your rising sign better represents your personality. Okay. And so the rising sign is the sign that is on the first house in your natal chart. And it represents you and your physical body. Okay. So in today's live, we're going to dive deep into the rising sign and how it is expressed by you. Okay. So real quick, if you are new to me or to the channel, hello and welcome. My name is Katrice and I am the Natal Chart Navigator, and I am an intuitive astrologer, and I teach newly divorced women or just divorced women how to use their natal charts to heal and rebuild their lives after divorce. We also talk about the 6 stages of divorce here and how to navigate those easier and with more grace. Okay. And so, for all of my navigators who are returning, hello, welcome back. I hope everybody who's watching, whether it's live or the replay, you have your notebooks, you have something to write with so that you can take notes. Okay. Also, if you have not gotten your free copy of Break Up the Brilliance, the Natal Astrology Healing Method, then you definitely want to do that because it breaks down the method and how you can use it to help you to rebuild your life after divorce. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. So, like I said earlier, we are diving deeper into the first house in astrology, which is the house of self. Okay. And so this is the house that where your birth chart starts, and it sets up the flow of the houses. Okay. So it's very important that you have your time of birth. Okay. Because the rising sign, which is the sign that is on the first house, is the sign that the rising sign is the sign that sets up the chart. Okay. So if you were born at, say, 4:05 in the morning, then you maybe are Leo rising. And so Leo would be on the first house, and then Virgo would be second, and follow in that progression. Now, if you're born at a different time, if you're, say, a Pisces rising, then Aries would be on your second house, and then Taurus on your third, and so forth and so forth. So the time of birth is very, very important that you have the time of birth. Okay. If you don't have the time of birth, if you can't get the time of birth from your mom, or if it's not listed on your birth chart, you can get your birth chart rectified through an astrologer that does rectification. They can rectify the chart, and so then they can give you that. Okay, so that it'll set up your first house. Okay, but the sign that's on your first house, and the first house in general, it's how you meet life. It's how others see you and the energy that walks into the room before you do. Okay. One of the things that people always tell me um, is that I have a very regal presence. And I'm a Leo rising. So Leo is the sign of um, it's the sign of royalty. Okay. And so when you have, and it's ruled by the sun. Okay. So the sun is the chart ruler. Which, if you don't understand what chart rulers is, if you go into the astrology basics playlist here on the channel, I have a video where I break down the chart ruler, what the chart ruler is, and the significance of the chart ruler. Okay. But being ruled by the sun, it gives Leo energy a very regal presence, right? And so that's one of the first things that you may hear when you are a Leo rising, okay? So the first house, it rules your identity, your appearance, your approach to life, and your vitality. It has some significance with your vitality in conjunction with your sun placement. Okay. It also rules first impressions, which is what I was just talking about. When people first encounter me, one of the first impressions they say about me is that I give off a very regal presence. It also is your physical body, your sense of identity, and your survival. Okay. And so this is where you say, I am. I am is the first house. Okay. Because it's who you are, it's how you identify, and it is your personal brand and energetic form. Okay. And so when you understand your first house, you understand the story that you are telling without words. And it also is where you it is where you create your story, okay? The first house is where you create your story. So if you don't like the current story that you have been subscribing to, then you can subscribe to a new story and write that. Okay. Now this first house is also where the ascendant lies. Now this ascendant is the exact entry point. Okay. When you came in. So there's each house has 30 degrees. Okay. And so your ascendant may be at, say, 22 degrees. So the rising sign was rising. Okay. And when you entered the world at that particular time, the sign was at that degree rising when you entered. Okay. So if you say we're born at 4:05 in the morning and the sign was at 22 degrees, your ascendant is going to be 22 degrees and, whatever, I think seconds. Okay. I think the little numbers are seconds. Okay. So you can think of it as your soul's introduction into the physical world. Okay. And it is also how your inner light chooses to express itself outwardly. Okay. All right. Now, I want to now get into the energy of the different signs. Okay. Because your rising sign describes how you initiate everything, whether it's your relationships, your goals, changes in your life, and even your healing. Okay. And which is why the healing method, the natal healing method, it includes the first house, the fourth house, the sixth house, the eighth house, and the 12th house. The fourth, the eighth, and the 12th houses are the healing houses. Okay. Sixth house is is the house of health and sickness. And then the first house is you. Okay. So the first house is not just about your looks or your personality, it is the energetic rhythm of how you move through life. Okay. So we're going to look at the signs here. I'm going to start with Aries rising. Okay. So now Aries rising, if you have Aries as your first house, okay, the ruling planet of Aries is Mars. So if you have Aries, then your chart ruler, which is the most important planet in your chart, that is Mars. Okay. So whenever Mars is making transits, any aspects to Mars, you are going to feel that very intensely. Okay. So the archetype of people who have Mars, who have Aries rising, is the superhero. Okay. And so Aries energy in the first house, it's initiatory, it's active and competitive, it's very decisive, it's fast, it's independent, it's pioneering, and it's not patient. It's not a very patient energy at all. It's very not patient. Okay. Um, and it's an extrovertive energy. Okay. Um, Even if you consider yourself an introvert, Aries energy is an extroverted energy. It's fire energy. Okay, fire energy is very extroverted, and it's a very passionate energy. Okay, so when you have this on the first house, okay, you're very bold, right? You don't sit around waiting for things to happen. You go out and you make things happen. Okay. And so while that is a very good quality, because it's not a passive energy, one thing about having Aries energy is that you can be a little bit uh, impulsive and jump the gun, and sometimes you may do things without over without thinking them all the way through. You'll take an idea and you'll be like, boom, let's hit it, let's hit the ground running. And sometimes you don't think things through, you just get a spark and go. And so you want to not to you know sniff out that spark or that fire, but just make sure that you kind of think things through a little bit before you start to take action. Okay. All right, now Taurus on the first house, you are ruled by Venus, okay? And the archetype for Taurus is the naturalist, okay? So anytime Venus is making any moves, it's your main planet, your chart ruler. And so anytime Venus is making any moves, any aspects to Venus, you are going to feel this more intensely. And so having Taurus on this house, Taurus energy is calm, it's kind of slow, it's grounded. Taurus is the bull, Aries is the ram, Taurus is the bull. It's a grounded energy. It's very five sensory, like it's very physically focused. It's a physical energy. Um, it's secure. It's a secure energy. It's patient, but it does have resistance to change and possessive. So having Taurus on the first house is going to it does make you resistive to change. Like you like stability and you like things to remain the same. Okay. It can also make you possessive and not wanting to share. And so for you may need to learn that change is not a bad thing. And in fact, it actually is a good thing in a lot of ways, because you don't want to get stuck and stagnant. Because Taurus is an energy that it can be very uncomfortable, but because it's so used to the routine, then it doesn't want to change. And so it'll just deal with the uncomfort because it likes comfort. even if it's uncomfortable. Okay. And so you are going to want to not allow yourself to get stuck in a rut and, constantly, be open to change. Okay. Um, Now, Gemini on the first house, okay? Gemini is air energy and it is ruled by Mercury, and it is the archetype of the entertainer or the comedian, okay? I like Gemini on the first house. It is dualistic, it's the twins, is the twins, and it's a very playful energy, very childlike. It's very sociable and agile and charming, very knowledgeable and communicative and adaptable. It's the energy of the trickster. Okay, so it can be a little tricky energy. But Gemini here on the first house, it gives the energy of somebody who is very social, who likes to learn, likes, is like kind of like a little jack of all trades, and a master of none, because it does get bored. Gemini energy is an energy that it has to constantly be going and moving and learning and doing, or else it will get bored. It doesn't like stagnancy at all. It likes to constantly be moving and in motion. Okay. Now, if you have Cancer on the first house, Cancer is ruled by the moon and it is the archetype of the matriarch. And I like Cancer on the first house as well because it's a very sweet and nurturing energy. Okay. Cancer rising people, they are very sweet. Okay. They can be emotional because it is ruled by the moon. So the moon is your dominant planet. It's your chart ruler. So any time that there is some, aspects to the moon, full moons, new moons, they really affect Cancer, Cancer risings, strong Cancer placements. But Cancer energy is an emotional energy. It is the crab. And it is very sensitive, but it's also very tenacious and intuitive. It's very instinctual and tribal. Family or people that Cancers consider family, that's their tribe, and they are very, very protective of their tribe. They also like to be safe, and they're very empathetic. Okay, so if you have Cancer on the first house, you are probably a very empathetic person, which is beautiful. But you have to know when to extend that empathy and when not. Everybody does not deserve your empathy. Okay. And so you are going to want to make sure that you are, you know, using your empathy when it is necessary, because people will take advantage of your empathetic nature. Okay. And so you really have to pay attention to that and don't allow people to just, take you and your empathetic, loving nature for granted. Okay. And to use you. Right. So you have to be very, very key with your empathy. Okay. Now, the next one is Leo. Leo on the first house. Leo is ruled by the sun. So that is your ruling planet. So anytime the sun makes any moves or any aspects to the sun, you are definitely going to feel this. I am a Leo rising. And like uh, this last moon, what was it? The eclipse that we just had. It was very strong for me, not just because I'm a Leo rising, but because it was 29 degrees of Virgo, and my sun is in Virgo at 29 degrees. So this was a very, very potent for me. I felt it very, very strongly. But Leo is, like I said, is ruled by the sun, and it's the archetype of royalty. So that king, queen, prince, princess energy. Okay. It's a very warm energy. It is fire energy. So it can be impulsive, not as impulsive as Aries, but it can be impulsive, but it's a dignified energy. It's very self confident. It's a glamorous energy, very generous, loves to give, very loving and inspirational. It's creative. You see a lot of celebrities, um, singers, and actors, actresses are Leo. They have Leo risings or Leo suns, Leo moons. They have strong Leo placements. And it's courageous, it's fun, and it's a very proud energy. Um, with it being a proud energy, feelings can get hurt easily. They won't let you know that you hurt their feelings. They won't outright, but you will be able to tell that you kind of like hurt their feelings, because Cancer is one energy that kind of wears its emotions on its sleeve. So you have to be, you have to really temper that. But Leo is another one too that can kind of wear their emotions on their sleeves as well. Um, but having Leo on the first house, it makes you um, it makes you shine, like literally just shine. And people, like, you may find people just staring at you, or people may just walk up to you and just start talking to you and telling you like all their business, and you be looking like, who are you and why are you telling me all your business? Like, it just makes people like really comfortable with you, and they'll just out of nowhere, like I've had people to just come up to me and just start telling me stuff, and I it's like they just need like advice, or they just need somebody, to talk to, and so they feel like they can, just tell me. And I mean, sometimes I just be like, oh wow, and I try to, talk, you know, but it just kind of throws me off, especially like if I'm not in that headspace, if I'm like, and it's just like, oh, okay. So if you have a Leo rising, let me know in the comments if you are a Leo rising or if you have strong Leo placements. Have you ever experienced that? Because I just be like, okay, okay. All right. All right. So next is Virgo. If you have Virgo on the first house, Virgo on the first house is ruled by Mercury. So Mercury, like you're like Gemini, Mercury is your chart ruler. And so whenever there is any types of transits or movement, or aspects to Mercury, you're going to feel this intensely. We do have a Mercury retrograde coming up on on the 9th of November. Mercury will be retrograde. So you're going to feel this intensely. Also, if your natal Mercury is retrograde, you may feel more clear mentally, because this is your natural Mercury's energy. Okay. But the archetype for Virgos is the priest or priestess. Okay. And so Virgo is it it makes you efficient, utilitarian, you're very practical. It is earth energy. Um, you're detail oriented. Um, Perfectionist is something that, it's how Virgo energy is described. And it's not that we want to get everything perfect. It's just that because we are so detail oriented, and I say we because I'm a Virgo sun and Venus, because we are detail oriented, we see mistakes easily. And so it's not that we want everything to be perfect. It's just when we see a mistake, we go to fix the mistake. So it seems as if we want it to be perfect, but it's not, because we know that perfection doesn't exist. However, we are so detail oriented that we pick up mistakes easily. Things that other people miss, a Virgo like is spot on, will see. And so it's like it's like if you are a Virgo rising or you have strong Virgo energy, mistakes are okay. Sometimes you just gotta let the mistake be. It is what it is. Like, um, you know, but so it's not that Virgo energy is perfectionistic. It's just because it is so detail oriented and it can pick up on mistakes quickly, and easily. It wants to fix the mistake. It's a very efficient energy, but it's also very helpful, humble. It's very service oriented and devoted. Okay. And after we go through all of the signs, I am going to get into talking about the shadows, the shadow energies of the signs. Okay. And how to work with that. Um, Now, Libra on the first house, having Libra on the first house, this makes you a very balanced person, harmonious. You are a social person, very relational. Libra energy is the energy of the partnership energy. It also makes you diplomatic, very stylish. Libra rising people, they have a very, they're very stylish. They can really dress. They look really great. They're ruled by Venus, just like Taurus. Taurus rising people, they can dress too. Um, Libra energy, they are kind of more um, like label. I won't say label. They're more into design or what I've noticed. Okay. I mean, I could be wrong, but depending on your chart. Okay. But from what I noticed, all of the Libra risings that I noticed, they are more into like designer labels than Taurus risings. Taurus risings are more practical in their style versus the Libra risings. But both of those, because they're ruled by Venus, they both are very stylish, and they both can dress really nicely. But the archetype for the Libra rising is the diplomat. Okay. And so again, anytime there's any Venus transits or any aspects to Venus, you are going to feel this more intensely than others. Okay. But you also having Libra on the first house, it makes you graceful, it makes you tactful, considerate, just, fair, and artistic. Okay. Fairness is really important to you. The Libra risings that I know, they are great mediators between people, and they know how to kind of, when there is conflict, they kind of know how to balance that conflict, and bring everybody into a solution that kind of can work for everybody. The only thing about Libra though is that it doesn't like conflict at all. It prefers not to have conflict, and it prefers not to choose sides. It's not because it's the scales. It has to stay balanced. So if it chooses a side, then it feels unbalanced. So they prefer not to choose sides. Okay. And I can attest to that. I understand that because I'm a Libra Mercury. So yeah, I get that. And having Libra in the Mercury, having a Libra Mercury, I though I like to be very tactful when I speak, and very just. I don't like choosing sides. I can see all sides. So it's hard for me to choose a side because I can see all sides. Which is, Libra rising is the same thing. Like they can see all sides. So they don't like to choose a side. Okay. Mercury placement does play into that as well, but as we're talking about the first house, and the first house is you, okay, because it's the house of self. Okay. Now moving on, Scorpio. If you have Scorpio on the first house, your ruling planet is Mars. Okay. Mars is the traditional ruler. If you're following the modern rulership, then it would be Pluto. Okay. But the archetype of Scorpio on the first house is the shaman. Okay. And so Scorpio energy is very deep and passionate. It can be controlling and complex, but it's also transformative and stoic. Um, it is it has a strong willpower, and it does not like to show its emotion. Okay, so that it has that stoicness to it, um, because it's the what it is, the scorpion. Okay, so it has the stinger on it, and but Scorpio is a very loyal energy. Okay, it's a very loyal energy. However, it's loyal to who is loyal to them. Okay, so it does not give its loyalty freely. Okay, you're definitely going to earn a Scorpio's loyalty, whether it is the rising sign, whether it is the sun sign, especially the moon sign. But Scorpio energy, you're going to earn that loyalty, but it can have a very jealous streak to it. It is the opposite energy of Taurus. So both is that they're that security axis. And so with Scorpio on the first house, emotional security is very important to you. Okay. Being emotionally secure, which is one of the reasons why they don't, Scorpio energy does not just open up to any and everybody. Like they have to vet you and see if you are truly somebody that they can be emotionally open with, because once they bond with you, the bond is deep. Scorpio is a very deep energy, and it does not do anything lightly. Okay, it takes everything seriously. It takes nothing at face value, um, and so if you have Scorpio on the first house, you are somebody who is you're very, very deep, and you don't just, interact with any and everybody, okay, in a deep way, not just saying you walking around, not talking to people, no, but you don't open yourself up to just any and everybody, okay? All right. And so now, if you are watching live, please put live in the chat. And if there's the replay, go ahead and put replay. Okay. All right. Next is Sagittarius on the first house. And so Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is the largest planet in our solar system. And it is in astrology the most benefic. Okay. Now, the archetype for Jupiter is the philosopher, and Sagittarius is ruled by the centaur. So half man, half horse, with the has the arrow. And so if you have Sagittarius on the first house, you are a free spirited person. You can be restless. It's fire energy, explorative and adventurous. It's can be philosophical, very optimistic, expansive, and has a great faith. Okay. Now, sometimes you can be optimistic to a fault and kind of be up in the clouds. And so you want to make sure that you are keeping yourself grounded, um, that you are keeping yourself grounded here on earth, and not just always being in the clouds, thinking that everything will work out, especially if you're not putting in the work, the practical work required with your faith. Okay. So that's something you want to really keep in mind. Also, having Sagittarius here with Jupiter being your dominant planet, your ruling planet, any aspects or any transits that Jupiter makes, they're going to affect you a lot more than they would others. But you also have to take care of having Sagittarius here because you are ruled by Jupiter. Um, your weight, you're going to have to be very, uh, you may have some weight issues. Your weight may fluctuate. Okay. So you're going to have to, because wherever Jupiter, wherever Jupiter is, whatever it touches, whatever it rules, it expands that. Okay. Um, and so it's the planet of excess. And so you are going to want to be mindful of your weight, what you're consuming. Don't over consume. Okay. All right. So next is Capricorn, and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Capricorn is one of my favorite energies. Is ruled by Saturn, and the archetype of the patriarch. This is the opposite energy um, to Cancer. Okay. And Capricorn on the first house has you focused, hardworking, strategic, success oriented, patient. Yeah, to a fault, to an extent. But you abide by the rules. You're enduring, you're responsible, you're mature, and you're very structured. Okay. People who are Capricorn risings, or if you have Saturn in the first house, one thing I have noticed about these people is that they take things literally. Like when you say like certain idioms and stuff, they take stuff very literal. And I have to remember that when I'm talking to people. Like my little one is a Capricorn rising, um, and I have to remember that she's a Capricorn rising, because she sometimes I'll say stuff and she'll look at me and I'll be like, no, I don't mean, I'm just saying it. Like then I have to like kind of explain what I mean, and then she's like, oh, okay. They take things quite literally, but having Capricorn here can make you very focused and very hardworking. But it can also make you, not have like forego fun. It can make you like be just so focused on the goal, and that can be stressful. That can lead to burnout. And so you are going to want to make sure that you are giving yourself time for rest, giving yourself time to have fun if you have Capricorn on the first house. Okay. And then the next one is Aquarius on the first house. Okay. Aquarius is another energy that I really like. It's traditionally ruled by Saturn, and the modern ruler, if you're going to follow modern rulership, then it is Uranus. Okay. And it's the archetype of the visionary. So this is the opposite energy to Leo. Okay. Aquarius energy is air energy, and it's very independent and social. It's outgoing and humanitarian. It's a visionary, it's determined, but it's a very detached energy. Okay. It is unconventional, it is quirky, but it's a very, very intelligent, highly intelligent energy. Okay. And so having Aquarius here, you are probably very intelligent. I'm sure you are very quirky and you do things in your own way, unconventional. You probably truly march to the beat of your own drum. You don't follow the crowd. Okay. Um, Now, Saturn being your ruling planet, traditionally, and Uranus, the modern ruler, whenever these planets are making transits or have any aspects to them, you're going to feel them a little more intensely than others. Um, but having Aquarius here, you have to, you may not be so comfortable with being who you are. And so you're going to have to tap into being comfortable with being different. Okay. Because Aquarius energy is a very um, unconventional energy, and it has its quirks. All of the energies do. But Aquarius is the type of energy, it does not want to fit in. It wants to stand out. It wants to be different. And so you may need to really become okay with not being like everybody else. Become okay with standing out and being yourself. Okay. And then the last but not least is Pisces. Okay. Which is the opposite energy of Virgo. Okay. And its ruling planet, the traditional ruler, is Jupiter. and the modern ruler is Neptune, and its archetype is the idealist. Okay, so Pisces is a very spiritual energy. It's magical, imaginative, it's dreamy and idealistic. It is very intuitive. It's romantic. It can have escapist tendencies. It's compassionate and it can be artistic. Okay, a lot of singers are or actors are they have Pisces energy, strong Pisces energy. Pisces energy on the first house. Um, it can be like a sponge. Neptune and Jupiter are your rulers. And so Neptune blurs the lines, okay? Um, there's it's like no boundaries. And so when you have Pisces on the first house, you have to be careful that you are not absorbing other people's energy, okay? You have to be careful that you are not allowing people to mold you into who they want you to be. You have to really set up strong boundaries and know who you are and stick to your boundaries, okay? Because Pisces energy, it kind of like is kind of like a sponge, okay? If you think about SpongeBob, okay? I when you think about SpongeBob kind of was kind of like Pisces energy. He was like very like, he kind of absorbed everything and he kind of like was very happy go lucky. That's kind of like you can think of Pisces energy is kind of like that. Okay. And so you're going to want to make sure that you have strong boundaries having Pisces on the first house. And, it's also Pisces is an empathetic energy as well. And so you're going to want to, tailor who you give your empathetic energy to. It is also can be a martyr type energy. It's opposite of Virgo. Virgo can have that martyr, thing going on as well. And so you are going to want to, watch out for the martyr being the martyr. Okay. Having Pisces on the first house. Okay. All right. So your rising sign, which is that's your energetic handshake. That is the first energy that people make. So if you if you're like, I really don't like identify with my zodiac sign, which when people most people say that they're thinking of their sun sign. If when I went through those and you were like, oh yeah, that's me, then you are identifying more with your rising sign. So your personality is more based on your rising sign, and that's what you identify with more. Okay. Um, and so your rising sign, it sets the tone for everybody, for your external world, before your sun sign or your moon sign. So before people have to kind of get to know you a little bit before they get to feel your sun sign, before your sun sign energy really starts to show. Your rising sign energy is what people are going to really be interacting with first. Okay. Now your moon sign energy, that's when they really get to know you. Okay. Um, Now, whatever planets that you have in the first house, if you have planets in the first house, those also become a part of your energetic signature. So, not last week, but the week before last, that class we went over planets in the first house. So, if you have not checked that out, go and look at that. Especially if you have planets in the first house. Okay. All right, so now I want to get into talking about the shadow side, okay? Because when your first house energy is off balance, it can feel like you are performing for acceptance instead of being your authentic self, okay? You may feel unseen even when you're trying to be noticed, and you may over identify with your image and forget who you really are on the inside. Okay. Um, And so if you have felt like you have been performing, if you felt like you have been doing things to try to make people love you, to make people want to be, to keep people in your life, that is the shadow side um, of your energies. Okay. And so you're going to want to check that. Okay. You're going to want to sit down and say, okay, where have I been performing? Where have I been trying to keep people in my life? Um, where have I been trying to make people notice me? And they're just looking past me, going somewhere else, looking at other people, right? The first house reminds you that your true power comes from your alignment and not your appearance. Okay. Yes, people see you. Yes, you want to look nice, and all of that. But once you get past all of that, okay, who are you? Okay. And that is what you want to project, is who you are, not just, what people see about you. Okay. And so this is why when you really start learning the sign on your first house, because it really has a lot to do with your identity. And so, especially coming off of a divorce, because, there's all these titles of wife and mom and this and that, and then you have your career. I'm an attorney, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse. There's all of these things. The first house is I am. And so, you know sit down and figure out exactly who you are, or who you want to be. Okay, because you are writing the story. Okay, so who is it that you want to be? And that is the power of your first house. And then how are you going to express that first house energy? Okay. Now, to work with your first house energy, okay, you want to affirm your truth. Okay. And so, one way you can do that is to say, I am safe to be seen as I am. And you can tell yourself this every single day. Wake up and look in the mirror and say, I am safe to be seen as who I am, or who I choose to be. And if people don't like it, the hell with them. As long as you like it, right? Because you're the one who has to live with you. You have to look in the mirror every day at yourself. And so if you are happy with you, to hell with who else not happy with you, right? Okay. The next thing to work with this energy is to practice embodiment. Okay. So your posture, your breath, your movement, it all mirrors your energy. How do you want to show up in the world? Okay. Not the way others have told you to show up, but how do you want to show up? Okay. And then you want to observe your first reactions. And so, how do you first react to things? Because this reveals how your rising sign is projected into the world. So, an example of this is with the Leo rising, right? I can speak about that because I'm a Leo rising. So, as a Leo rising, um, the first reaction that I have to stuff, it's normally a very calm reaction. It's normally a very poised reaction. I won't typically like overreact. I will kind of assess the situation first, kind of, and then, react, right? Now, somebody who has a Gemini rising, their first reaction to something might be to make a joke, okay, about something. So, observe how react to things, because that is how your rising energy is projected into the world. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just when you're doing this, you're learning your energy. Okay. And then the last thing is to redefine your energy. Redefine your identity. Okay. You are allowed to evolve. Nothing is stagnant. Okay. And so your first house, that energy, it grows with you. And not only does it grow and evolve with you, but then you start putting in your sun sign energy, right? And you start adding that into the mix, and then your moon sign, and then all of your other signs, right? But it's all, the natal chart is not a stagnant chart, okay? It is a living chart. It is you in living color, okay? It's your energy, and as you grow and as you evolve, your chart evolves, okay? Um, and so the first house is your foundation. It is the base of, it's where your entire chart begins. And so when you know how to work with and honor that energy, life starts responding to your true frequency and not to the one that you are performing for, not the life that you're performing for. And so that's what I have for you today, in this live. Sorry, I wasn't able to get it out on Thursday. I had a lot going on Thursday and Friday, but I wanted to make sure that I got this out because this rounds up our first house series. And I'm going to be doing more, in the future on the first house, different topics or whatever. But I wanted to get this foundational stuff out. So if you're watching this, if you watch this live, thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate you. And if you're watching it on the replay, I appreciate you as well. But make sure you go back and watch. If you need to take notes, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. And I will definitely come back. I answer all the questions. Okay. And so if you did enjoy this breakdown, then share it. Please share it with another divorcee that could use some guidance and community while navigating her journey. And also, if you want to continue to learn how you can use the natal astrology healing method for your divorce recovery, and you want to be a part of the Understanding You University Navigators community, make sure that you subscribe and click the bell so that you get notified when I upload new content to the channel. And if you're ready to dive deeper into your personal chart, then I invite you to check the description for additional tools and resources, such as my ebook, From Breakup to Brilliance, the Natal Astrology Healing Method. And if you want to book an energetic calibration reading with me, you can do so. Okay. And so until next time, remember that divorce is not your ending, it is your initiation into the most powerful version of yourself. All right. So I will see you later, navigators. Have a good one.